Hello, welcome back to the Boardgames 4K YouTube channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings, generally talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general. And in this video we're going to be talking about a game that was released in 2013 to critical acclaim. It was sort of considered a bit of a game changer at the time, but we're going to be talking about Duel of Ages II and the master set Ages. You'll be thrust into a Hunger Games style scenario where you'll be trying to pick up equipment that will allow you to kill the other team, that will eventually allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules to this beast. We'll be telling you what we do like, what we don't like, then we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Duel of Ages and the master set are worth picking up today so you can play it in the future. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down there, and we'll see you after this. Boardgames 4K. So, Duel of Ages 2 and the master set. How'd you play this game? So I'm going to tell you now, right, if you're expecting a comprehensive rules overview, you are in the wrong place. Go and watch another video. This game is so massive. There's so many exceptions. There's so many rules to learn. We ain't going to be able to cover that. So we're going to give you a very brief overview. And if we miss anything out, then tough. All right. So what's happened with this game, right? It's a bit of a weird scenario. You've got all these different characters from the ancient era, the colonial era, the modern era, and the future era. They've been thrust into this sort of holodeck VR type scenario where they'll be basically split into two teams and they'll be fighting it out on a map made of what's called platters or tiles, right? And the tiles have different types of terrain, like Mage Knight, you know, so each type of terrain is going to cost a certain amount of movement points to move through. Okay, so what you're going to do, first of all, you are going to randomly select some platters and you're going to be putting them together, and depending on what scenario you're playing and how many players you're playing with, the game board is going to be different every time. Okay, next thing you're going to do is everybody is going to select a certain number of characters based again on how long the game's going to be, how many players you're playing, all that sort of stuff. So there's various ways of character selection. You can just randomly pick them, you can draft characters and all that sort of thing, but eventually you're going to have a set of characters in front of you, right? So each character is going to have a certain amount of stats. You're going to have combat stats, you can have defense stats, right? And then you're going to have certain other stats that sort of take care of things like intelligence and that sort of stuff. So you've got speed, okay? This is the amount of movement points you're going to get when you're moving across the map. If you're moving across a clear space, it's going to cost you 1 movement point. If you're moving across woods, then it's going to cost you 2. Swamps are going to cost you 3, and there's loads and loads and loads and loads of different types of terrain, and there's loads and loads and loads and loads of different movement restrictions when you're talking about how you're going to move. But the basic gist is you're going to spend your movement points to move across different types of terrain. I mean, so the next stat is your health points. This is a basic fare for this type of game. Basically, when your hit points run out, you're dead, and that's that. Then you've got your melee stats. You have got your wits, you've got your melee, you've got your power, and you've got your damage, right? And this all relates to hand-to-hand combat that takes place on the same space as an opponent. So then you've got your ranged stats. You've got your aim, you've got your point, you've got your throw. Very self-explanatory stuff there. Then you've got your defense stats, you've got your react, stealth and armor. This is again to do with how you defend against different types of attacks. And then you've got your traits, you've got your strength, intellect, honor and respect. Okay, so what you're going to be doing, you're going to be moving around the map, you're going to be going on adventures, which we'll talk about in a bit, but basically the main mechanism of this game is taking part in different challenges, whether that's a combat challenge or whether it's an adventure challenge. Basically what a challenge is that you'll compare one stat with another stat, like a stat of the attacker, the stat of the defender, and you'll see how greater one or the other stat is, and then you'll flip over a challenge card and you'll look at a chart, and that will tell you what the outcome of the challenge is going to be. So if you are using a ranged weapon, then you will have to have line of sight. There's different types of terrain that block line of sight. So if you're trying to shoot through woods, they're going to offer the defender a certain amount of cover, and what it will do, it will give a +2 stealth bonus to the defender, right? And again, the same sort of thing applies to if you're shooting from above somebody. So if you're an attacker and you're shooting a ranged weapon on top of a mesa, then that's going to give you a height advantage that will give you a bonus when you are trying to do in one of your opponents. So this game follows a set number of phases, and what you're going to do, you're going to have one team going through all their phases, and then it will swap over and the other team will go through all their phases. So the first phase of this game is the free action phase, and this is where you'll be able to trade items. If you're on the same space, you'll be able to put items in your vault. You'll be able to do a certain few other actions in this phase, right? So the next phase is the fire phase, and what this allows you to do, this allows you to shoot a ranged weapon at any opponent. There is a restriction to this. If you fire a weapon in this phase, then you won't be able to move in the next phase. That is the movement phase. So in the movement phase, any players that haven't fired a ranged weapon will be able to move. We've already talked about this. You'll use up your movement points, and then you'll move on to the next phase, which is the op fire phase, or the opportunity fire phase. What this allows you to do, this will allow your opponents to have a go back at you with their ranged weapons, and it's up to them whether they want to do that. There's a few restrictions on what you can and can't do in this phase, but we ain't going to get into that because we don't want to feel like we're sinking into a quagmire just yet, and I don't think you do too, do you? So the next phase is the melee phase, and again, we've sort of touched on this. Any characters that are in the same space as an opponent will engage in melee combat, and you'll do a combat challenge, and the loser will lose a certain amount of health points based on what weapon you're using. So the next phase is the adventure phase. Adventure is a very broad term for anyone that's on a space that isn't engaged in combat, right? So you might be on the key of lith, and keys are these sort of weird shaped things that tie platters together. So if you're on the lith adventure tile, what you do, you'll put your character token on the first space of the lift key, and you'll do a certain few things. We're not going to get into the whys and wherefores about what key does what. I mean, you can look at that for yourself, go and watch a playthrough or something like that. But basically, an adventure will culminate again in a challenge, and if you're taking part in an adventure, you're going to be the attacker, and the adventure or the encounter is going to be the defender. You'll do a challenge, and that will determine whether you're successful or not. And the result of an adventure generally will mean that you're going to be able to draw some treasure cards. So you've got 3 different types of treasures. You've got the common treasures, which are a stack like that. You've got secret treasures, which are a stack like that. And then you've got elite treasures, which are a stack like that. There's so many of these bloody things. It's unbelievable. And elite treasures are a little bit different. They're super special weapons or pieces of equipment, but they will require 2 card draws as part of your reward. What you can do with 2 card draws, you can either use both of them to draw an elite weapon, or you can draw 1 common and 1 secret, or 2 common or whatever. Elite treasures will always cost you 2 card draws. So the next phase and the final phase before you hand over to your opponents is the reinforced phase. And what you do, you look at your character's respect score, and then all the characters that have the highest or higher than the highest, if that makes sense, respect score, will then spawn onto the board. And sometimes you might spawn on the dome spaces, other times you might have like a set entry point, but it all depends on what scenario. This is how you get your teammates onto the board. So you're going to keep doing this. You're going to keep rushing around the board, beating people up, getting treasures, going on adventures, and dependent on what type of scenario, whether it's the rush scenario, whether it's the flag encounter missions or the jump labyrinth missions, they each give you a different victory condition. And once you've fulfilled the victory condition, or you run out of time, if that's what you want to play, then you will be the winner of Duel of Ages 2 and the Master Set. So what do we like about Duel of Ages 2? So the first thing that we got to talk about, and the thing that lured us into this game to start with, is the sheer variety of stuff in this game. This game comes with 192 different character cards, if you got a master set obviously, but 192 characters. I mean, we've never seen anything like it. I mean, we played this the other day with my mum, for people, right? And she loved it. She was going through all the characters, looking at them, going, blimey, like Billy the Kid's in here. Good grief. William Wallace is in there. Oh my goodness me. There's all these different characters from all these different ages. Hannibal's in there, I think. You've got made up characters from the future that are going to be taking on all these ancient characters from the colonial era. And if you add that with the mind-boggling amount of different weapons and treasures and equipment and different things that are going on in this game, you are never, ever going to get the same game twice. I mean, you could play this for 6 lifetimes, and I don't think you'll ever see all the content ever, and that's, for us, that's unprecedented. So the second thing that we like about Duel of Ages, and this ties in with the first point, is that just the fact that you've got a mashup of all these different eras sort of reminds us a little bit of Heroescape. You know, the way that you can sort of have Shaolin monks battling with the British imperialist army, and then you've got the secret agents battling these massive robots. It's the same kind of thing, but on a sort of a 2D plane, so it makes it a little bit more accessible. The setup time is reduced, but you still get that feeling that you've got these different eras punching each other's lights out in this sort of Hunger Games arena. And it's absolutely fantastic the way the game sort of offers you these infinite possibilities, but it's all anchored in a theme that is sort of all too familiar as well, you know. So the third thing that follows on from the first and second thing that we're talking about is that the keys, these weird shaped things that link the boards together, they add a lovable nonsense to what would otherwise be a bit of a serious sort of game. You know, if you've got all these real life characters from history coming in and battling these sort of futuristic characters, you could think, well, that might be a little bit too serious. But no, the designer has added in these completely nonsensical, insane things. I mean, like Lith is like a sort of a god or something, you know, that sort of lives in this sort of dungeon. You've got all these different labyrinths and all these different adventures you can go on, and just the premise of the game is so ludicrous that it's just a case of sort of grab your, just dive in, swim, forget the world and have a laugh, you know. And this is a welcome light relief from some of the Euro games that we've been playing recently, and it really does sort of take you out of that sort of sterile environment and just throw you into this multicoloured utopia of stupidity. So the final thing that we like about Duel of Ages 2 that ties into the first, second, was it the third thing? Yeah, the third thing that we were talking about is that there's 1,000,000,001 plays to play this game. There's so many different types of scenarios. Like we said, you've got the rush scenario that's just sort of a case of grabbing objectives that are on the board. You've got like a capture the flag thing that you're going to be playing with this game. And if you want to, you could just chuck your characters out into the arena and you could just have a punch up, have a last man standing thing. There's so many different possibilities. I mean, that's a theme that keeps coming up with this game, is the fact that you've got so many possibilities. Even now, I'm thinking, I want to play this game, you know what I mean? So what don't we like about Duel of Ages 2? So the first thing that we don't like about Duel of Ages 2 is the rules. There's too many of them. There's too many exceptions. It took me about a week to learn this. I mean, okay, maybe I've got the intellect of a soggy cabbage, but even so, I had to pore over the rules. I would watch these playthroughs. I downloaded the Master Rules and Missions Compendium just so I could get a more painful headache. But yeah, this game, there's so many different exceptions. You basically got to cram a PhD into a couple of weeks before you learn this game. And okay, there's going to be people out there that are sort of laughing at me going, well, you know, I just spent 15 minutes learning rules and it just went in there like that. But no, how many pages of rules are there? There are 28 pages of rules in the rule book. And even if you download the Universal Head rule summary, you're looking at about 5 or 6 pages of rule summary with dense text. And it's too much for me. I found myself just sitting there in despair, weeping into my handkerchief because the rules made my brain explode. So the second thing that we don't like about Duel of Ages 2 is the fact this game relies on a random conflict resolution mechanism. There's not really much you can do about the outcome of that unless you load yourself up with these tasty weapons. And again, that's going to be a random card draw. You aren't going to know whether you're going to get a kazoo to fight with or whether or not you're going to get a nuclear missile, you know. So it's a real shame the way that there was no way to sort of influence anything, or there's no clues as to where you're going to go, what you're going to get. It's just a case of go to a certain place, resolve a random conflict resolution, and then get a random treasure. So the next thing we don't like about Duel of Ages 2 and the Master Set is the production quality isn't that great. You know, in this day and age, you would expect there to be some sort of standees at least, or miniatures if a big time developer got hold of this. But no, there's tokens. It's all chip based. It's really fiddly when you're putting these team tokens out into these labyrinths and stuff. And even the artwork on some of the cards leaves a little bit to be desired. It's all a bit fuzzy. It's all a bit sort of out of shape. You know, some of the characters don't look right. Yeah, it looks like it was produced in 2013. Things have moved on since this game was first produced. It really does need a bit of a refresh. So to summarise, is Duel of Ages 2 and the Master Set still worth playing today? and in the future. So we are going to say, yes, we do enjoy this game. It gives us an opportunity to forget about all these complex board games that we're surrounded by day in, day out. And okay, we do like Euro games, we do like them, we love them. But sometimes you just need to relax, right? And just throw things on the table and just see what it tastes like. This game lets you go crazy. It lets you go absolutely insane, right? It's got an insane theme. It's got insane amount of possibilities, and it will drive you insane with the rules, right? So that's what this game's all about. Bucks the trend. It defies the rules. It sets up its own rules, and you can set up your own rules with it too, right? The game does feel slightly dated and could do with a refresh. In fact, Duel of Ages 3 needs to be published. They need to work on a streamlined version of the rules, but don't streamline the content, right? That's the main thing that makes this game strong. But the main thing is that you can't take this game too seriously. If you can find it, we do recommend that you pick up Duel of Ages 2. Obviously, the master set is a great addition because it adds so much more variety and so much more content. But we're going to give Duel of Ages 2 with the master set 4 out of 5. It's one of the most fun games we played this year. So there you go. That's Duel of Ages 2 with the master set. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you next time.
West side, west side, west side, real west side, on the west side, yeah.